All right, people. Got kind of a multi-part mail call today. Not going to do all the fanfare. If you watched my video from earlier, that was a little bit different for me, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one. So go check out that video. Go see what Bo over at Carved Bones Woodworking did for me. It is much appreciated. But we're going to move on to some toys right now. As a lot of you know, I like to airbrush. I was having issues with a couple of airbrushes. Well, one airbrush. And, you know, it's probably operator error. I know that. So I decided to go a different route today. And when you're learning a new craft, it's always nice to see what's out there. So the wife being a big part of this is always like, do what you got to do, babe. I can't thank anybody enough for her. Good Lord above, she's a godsend. She's always pushing me. She's always supporting me, and she knows when I reach far. And she just wanted me to have the right tools for the jobs. Well, I needed a micro airbrush, and anybody that's into airbrushing knows those things aren't cheap. You go out and buy the Iwata, it's going to run you $700, $800 depending on who you buy it from. So I went with, and that's the Micron. I ended up going with Master Airbrush, and Master Airbrush makes a nice little setup. I did a lot of research, did some reviews, and this particular setup comes with a 0.3, 0.5 interchangeable needle setup. You got all the parts you need to switch out those needles. Different regulator valves for it. Really good reviews. I've seen a lot of different professionals using this. This kind of uses that caged rear end system like the Badgers use. Does have the adjustment up front. And then these little things, if you're beginning airbrush and you know, a simple setup, having these on the fly instead of on the compressor, these little pressure regulators, they're great. Great little tool to have in your arsenal. So there is that. That is the Master Airbrush. That is their micro airbrush. And then, if you don't know the master of the matte finish, the wavy gravy of panel flags, Joe over at Patriot Hill said, you got to get a gun, dude. You got to get a gun. So, Joe, I'm armed and dangerous now. This is the Master Airbrush with the trigger setup, and I have not used one of these. I'm excited to use this. I want to see how this works. I want to see the flow control for the bigger projects, and that's really what I got it for. The cup on this thing is monstrous. As you can see, I'll just set it in there a few turns so you can see quite the big reservoir for doing your bigger projects, bigger flags versus this little stuff. However, according to all the reviews, this can be used both ways, and if you pop that front cap off, I've seen people do some pretty detailed stuff with this. So I am quite excited to see what this thing does. So that's two of the new tools in the arsenal. As some of you know, some of you follow me, the paints have really taken off for me. I've been doing custom stuff for people. I've been taking orders on paint jobs. So I am definitely getting there on that stuff. So now we got those. We have the central pneumatic. This is their 29 PSI. It's a beginner's paint gun here. But I bought it for primer. Talked to a couple cats out there on the internet. And they're like, I shoot clear through it. I shoot color through it. So we're going to see what happens there. I've gone out and made my own flake guns. It's amazing what you can learn on the internet. And instead of a $400 setup or a $280 setup, I decided to build my own. So it's a couple borrowed parts. This was actually a car wash gun. Popped the regulator out of it, or the reducer out of it. Switched some parts over. And stole the canister from it. And I've yet to figure out cap size and all that. But I can actually drop the gun into the bottle. I have two different size hoses for it. They're aluminum little hoses for dropping down in there. I'm going to tap a hole in the top. Well, it's got one in there, but I'm going to tap one a little bit bigger just to get a slower vacuum. I'm going to put a pressure regulator on these because they blast the flake out. But the reason you have to have the gun so big is this is Roth metal flake tripping line. This is their window pane. This is the biggest flake I'll be shooting. So you need at least a 2.5 to shoot this. I forget what Roth recommends to shoot through that, but that's what I've done here. We're graduating from the airbrushes to some bigger stuff for the bigger projects, but I'm not giving up the airbrushes for the bigger guns. I'm still going to continue with the airbrush projects. Still going to continue to do stuff like that. This is a bat that I'm working on right now. This has been drying for 2 days so I can move on to the next coats and layers of graphics. So, not giving up on the airbrushing, just trying to get better every day. Always push yourself to the next level. I was told bats are hard. The masking, the taping, the laying of graphics is really hard on the bats. So immediately, that's what I go do. But again, still doing helmets. We'll always do stuff like this just to push myself. Make sure you're pushing yourself. Reach out, expand, try new things. You never know till you try. I had no idea I'd be doing paint like this when I started this woodworking venture. So let's continue. Rock on. Appreciate you stopping by.
It's a long way to the top if you wanna